Hello and welcome to another episode of the Family Renewal podcast. Today's recording is going to be a little bit different because we're going to be talking about music, faith, and family with Bobby Bowen of the Bobby Bowen Family Band. And I actually have, for those of you in Radio Land, you can't hear me, but you can't see my t-shirt. But I have the Bobby Bowen Family Band t-shirt, cool merch here that I'm wearing for the podcast. And Bobby, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Israel. And you know what? This was not planned at all that I would wear the same t-shirt.
Well, I'm grateful you're here, and I want to introduce you, let people know a little bit about you. Bobby actually, and here's the thing about introductions. When I give introductions, you actually may win awards that you've never won. You may get degrees that you didn't know you had. And then you can modify all of that if you want to, or just keep it, right? So yeah. I'll give you my version of the introduction of your history. So Bobby, for many years, was bass player and lead singer of a group called MidSouth, which, if you go way back into the 1980s, it was MidSouth Boys. And they had their roots in Southern gospel. That was where they were first finding radio airplay. I remember in the mid-1980s, my older sister, Sony, who is a Southern gospel aficionado and actually has a blog on Southern gospel music, she would listen to a little radio station, I think it was called WTRM, somewhere in West Virginia, and they played a ton of your stuff. And then I think I first connected with you musically probably somewhere around 1990. When I moved to Texas, fall of 1990, Word Music Publishing was there. And they actually were dumping cassette tapes at that time because CDs were coming out. Yeah. And so you could buy cassette tapes from them for like 50 cents or something like that, direct from the warehouse. Yeah. And so you had a couple of cassette tapes with them at that time. And then really for you guys, the 90s, I think, were the heyday of MidSouth. I mean, it just felt like things took off. You did the song Tabernacle, which was a massive hit. And radio was playing with this new format of music at the time. They were trying to figure out how to appeal to the country music audience that wanted something other than just barroom fighting, drinking, cussing songs. And so there was a Christian country market that came out, but there was also positive country and there was inspirational country. Right. And they were trying to develop different radio formats for all of these options with different charts and so forth. And, you know, you guys, I'll just throw this out there because, I know somebody will probably disagree with me, but my subjective personal opinion is I think MidSouth was the best of the best. And there are a lot of great groups out there, so I don't mean to demean anybody else. But in terms of Christian country, just from a professionalism standpoint, you guys were tight. I mean, that band was, especially in the 90s, was just really you're on your A game. And so you put out a ton of great music, won a Dove Award for Christian Country Recorded Song of the Year with Without You, I Haven't Got a Prayer. Just had a very successful career on the road, traveling, all over the place, just playing all kinds of venues, lots of opportunities. I'm sure you'll have stories for life just from the travels that you did with MidSouth. But then as it does, life took a turn for you. And I think somewhere around 1997, MidSouth ended up disbanding. And you found not a new career, but a new focus in family that you hadn't been able to experience in the same way before. Why don't you pick up the story there and tell me what happened in 97 when you kind of go off the road? You've lived your dream of being a musician, traveling on the road, and then all of a sudden life throws you a curveball. Pick it up there, Bobby. What was that like for you?
Well, Israel, why are you interviewing me? You know all my story. You've been doing your homework, man. No, I tell you, being with MidSouth was a dream come true. And, when I was just a kid, I always dreamed of getting on a big old bus and traveling all over the country and singing gospel music. And the Bible tells us that the Lord gives us the desires of our hearts. And it was my desire. And soon, right after I graduated from high school, about 6 months after that, the opportunity came for me to join the MidSouth Boys Quartet back then, which quartet music wasn't my thing. But I thought, man, I'm going to do this. And this could be a stepping stone that I could use to maybe go with somebody else that was more my style of music, which was a country gospel style back then. But ended up staying with MidSouth for 15 years, and saw it all the way to the end in 97. And what happened in 97 was we had signed with Warner Brothers Records in 94. We had been with Word Records, like you said, before that, and our contract ran out with Word, and they didn't re-sign us. And so we did 3 projects with Word. And after the third one was done and everything, they decided to release us. And so Warner picked us up. We did 2 projects with Warner. The song you were talking about, Without You, I Haven't Got a Prayer, was a big song for us that crossed over into pop radio, was playing on the same format with Stevie Wonder, Chicago, the Eagles, Madonna, all those kind of groups back then. It actually was on the charts at number 23. It debuted on the Billboard top 40 pop charts at number 23 back then. That was a big deal for us because there we were right in the chart between Madonna and Stevie Wonder, and it's like, what is MidSouth doing on a chart like this? But we had some great success. The song, we did a video on the song that played on CMT. He probably still does, about 4 a.m. if you might want to stay up and catch it. VH1, I mean, it was everywhere. We had, remember the old Muzak, elevator music? They used to do instrumental music of big pop hits. They actually did that song and made elevator music out of it. And wow. We could be at a restaurant or a supermarket somewhere, and all of a sudden that thing would start playing in the speakers in the ceiling. And I just wanted to stop and yell, "That's our song! Let's listen to that!" It was a big deal was going on, and it did win a Dove Award for Country Recorded Song of the Year in '95. So things were just popping. Things were happening. Our record label was starting to put a lot of money into promoting the song, and Warner Brothers in Los Angeles was the one that actually instigated. They were the pop label over there. They wanted to release the song to pop radio. And so we were at the point, they told us that if your song hits the top 20, that's when things really start turning around for you. That's when you get, you start going on back then. The big late night talk shows were Jay Leno and David Letterman. And we were going to be on those shows, if it hit the top 20, which they were getting ready to do a big push to get up in the top 20. And for some reason, I don't know what happened, but the record label here in Nashville decided they didn't want to put any more money into it, and they just kind of dropped the ball on it. And there was no more promotion on it. It started falling off the charts, and that was it. We recorded one more project with Warner after that. We did one song that we made a video on that played on CMT. And after that song and everything was over with, they decided to drop us. And, I really don't know why. That's still one of those questions that we've never been answered, other than it must have been God's plan. Because I think he knew, well, he knows everything. But I think it saved us from things that could come, worldly things to come, being on those shows and hobnobbing with the big wigs in secular music and all that. It could have steered us in the wrong direction. So I feel like the Lord saved us. It could, a lot of people don't know, but when you sing on a stage, I don't care if it's Christian music, rock music, country music, there's always people looking at you like you're a big star. I want to be close to you. Mm-hmm. And especially women, when they see guys on stage, they're attracted to them. The Lord could have saved us from affairs, divorce, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. You just never know. Mm-hmm. But I believe he did. And so we knew that time had come for us to with no record label, our management left us at the same time. Our booking agency dropped us at the same time. We just saw the handwriting on the wall that it was time to call it quits. And we thought, could we go back to more of a Southern gospel kind of thing and start wearing slacks and
matching suits and ties,
suit coats? Well, not that far, but anyway, we were like, you know what, this is the kind of music we love to do, and it just don't fit over there. We kind of had to we didn't do any more Southern gospel concerts because we were too country, and with our dress and our, of course our hair was longer and everything, and it just didn't fit that style. Now the fans still loved it, but the industry just, they were like, no, we don't really want you to part of our industry. We want to do what we do. You go do what you want to do, which there wasn't really an industry for what we did. I mean, there was hardly any radio airplay. It was just hard to make it back then. So we knew that it was time to just call it quits and just everybody just kind of go do their separate things. So I'd only been married about 3 years, almost 3 years at the time. And my wife and I were talking about starting to have kids, starting to have a family. And so I, when MidSouth got off the road, I had a guy at my church that owned a direct mail business. And I was working there part-time when I was home off the road in his mail business. So when the opportunity came, he hired me full-time, which I'm very grateful for. So it kind of started there, and I got more involved in my church. I started running the sound. We had just built a new facility, a big building of seat about 2,500 people. And we had a huge sound system in there, and it had a crew and everything. And so I was in charge of all that. I was put in charge of all that. It was a big responsibility. We had a lot of events that like Dave Ramsey would come in. There would be concerts that would come in, and I would be in charge of all the sound and everything, make sure everything was good for all those. So it was a big job for me. And, but that love of music and traveling and singing was still there. It never left me. And so about 2003, I was turning 40 years old in 2003. That'll tell you how old I am now. My wife put it together a surprise birthday party for me. And there was about 100 people there, and most of the guys that I traveled with the last 10 years before that with MidSouth were there. And there was a stage set up. They had, drums, guitars, keyboards, sound system. We were going to have a little mini MidSouth concert at my birthday. So everybody got up there, and we started singing those old songs and really had a lot of fun. Well, two of the guys that I used to travel with, Kent Humphrey and his brother Jason, there at the end, they kind of hung around after everybody was leaving, and they said, we want to talk to you for a little bit. So they pulled me aside. We started talking. They said, we really want to start traveling again and singing. And I said, I do too. And they said, let's start a new group. So we did. And it was called Heritage Road, which was MidSouth reincarnated, kind of same guys. And so we did that for about 3 years. And, during those 3 years, I was thinking that I would kind of like to, it wasn't full time, by the way. It was just part time. I still wanted to go full time. And at that time, I'd gotten a new job. I was working, which you're not going to believe this, but there was another man in my church that offered me a job driving a bush hog tractor, which I had never driven a tractor before in my life. And he wanted to put a chainsaw in my hand and start cutting trees. And I'm like, I have never done that kind of, the only kind of wood I've had in my hand is a guitar. But he said, oh, you'll learn real quick. And I'm going to pay you this amount of money. And it was more money than I've ever made in my life. And I'm like, well, okay. So I took the job and started doing that. But you know what? It just wasn't me. Even though the money was good and it was for a season, I still wanted to travel and sing. So I told my wife, I said, I'm just afraid to try to do something on my own because I've never been by myself. I've never had to do any of the booking. I've never had to do any of the talking on stage. I've never had to do the management. All that was done by somebody else in the group that I was with. And all I had to do was show up with my bass guitar, put my stuff on the bus. I would have to drive the bus, get to the church, unload, set up, sing, load it back in the bus, take off at the bus again, do it all over again. I never had to do any of the other stuff. So the thought of that was just kind of terrifying to me. And she said, well, why don't you just send out some emails and just see what kind of response you get? So I said, well, okay, I will. So I started sending out some emails, and I started getting back some positive response. And they're like, yeah, we remember you with MidSouth, and we'd love to have you come sing in our church. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. So the first trip was in Michigan. My
Great
wife's
state,
from Michigan.
by the way. Great
state. Great. My wife's from Michigan, Sturgis, Michigan area, if y'all know where that is. And so her brother booked me at a restaurant there that he was working at in Sturgis. I was just going to entertain the people while they're eating and all that kind of stuff. But then I booked a couple of churches for that same weekend. My cousin has a church in Muncie, Indiana, so I booked that church. And then another one of my wife's cousins was going to a church. Her dad was going to another church, and so they booked me in there. So we did that weekend, and it was pretty awesome. I was afraid that I wasn't going to have anything to say. My program was going to be really short. I only had like 5 or 6 songs worked up, and but I ended up, doing especially the Sunday morning concert that I did. I was up there almost an hour and a half. So I guess I talked a lot. I didn't realize I could talk that much, but you're probably saying, well, you sure are talking a lot now, but I've learned a lot since then. But anyway, it went so well that I thought, man, and the offerings were good. I sold a bunch of CDs, and I thought, man, I think I can do this. But you know what? On the way up there to that first weekend, we were driving through Indiana on the way to Michigan, and the Lord was just dealing with me. And I looked in the van. I took the whole family because we were going up to see the kinfolk of my wife's family up in Michigan. So I took the whole family. And at that time, we had 4 kids, me and my wife, and I was sitting there driving the van, and she was sitting over the passenger seat. And I looked back in the rearview mirror, and I could see all my kids sitting back there in their car seats. And the Lord spoke to me, and he said, I don't want you to travel alone. I want you to take your family with you. Make it a family ministry. Mm-hmm. And so I looked over at my wife, and I said, what would you think if we did this as a family? And her eyes got real big, and I thought, she's going to let me have it. She's no way she's going to do this. But she said, you know what? I was just having that same thought. The Lord was dealing with her the same time he was dealing with me. Mm-hmm. And so from that point on, we traveled as a family. Even though I was doing the majority of the singing, I would get a couple of kids to come up and sing a couple of songs during that time. This was back in the January of 2008. My kids were just really little back then. And my wife would get up and talk a little bit, give a little testimony about our oldest daughter, Grace, that's in a wheelchair. She's 21 years old now. She has cerebral palsy, and we had a lot of complications during her birth. So she kind of gave a testimony about God's grace, the grace he gave us, plus the grace he gave us, mm-hmm. Grace Bowen. And so that's kind of where it all started. And that's been, this is our 12th year of traveling and doing that now. And God has just really blessed us. And of course, we've homeschooled all of our kids, still are. And we have 5 kids now. If I move, you can see all of them there. Whoops. You can see all my kids. We're kind of jumping for joy right there. But anyway, 2 of my kids, my oldest Grace and our oldest son Landis, were in public school. Right when we were getting started, I think Grace was in the 2nd grade and Landis was getting ready to start 1st grade. I think he'd already started 1st grade. And of course, we had to take him out of public school with our road schedule, traveling schedule. It just wasn't going to work out that way. So we started homeschooling, which my wife was just like totally against at first, but she knew that was the only way that we could do it. And but now we wouldn't trade it for nothing. We would never go back to public school. And so 2 of our kids have graduated already from high school. And this one, you can't see her, that one next to me right there. She's 17 years old. She sings with me, travels with me, and plays the mandolin. Has a great voice. good musician, and she's in her 11th year of school. She'll be graduating next year. And then that one right there, is 14 years old. She sings and plays the fiddle, and she's got 3 or 4 more years to go. And then our youngest is right there in the middle in the black shirt. He's in the 3rd grade now. His name is Justice. He plays guitar and sings as well. So that's what we've been doing, and so that kind of sums up what happened and where we are today.
You know, Bobby, my family does something very similar to yours in a way. We go around to churches and conferences, and I talk about family and parenting, and we talk about marriage and sometimes homeschooling, different topics. I preach at churches. I'm a little different from you in the sense that I think there are some places that would pay me not to sing. So, so it's a little bit different in that I don't have an itinerant music ministry. I have an itinerant speaking ministry.
Yeah.
But besides what we do professionally, our lifestyle is fairly similar. And
Right.
With us, we travel around in a 15-passenger van. And a few years back, we got us a cargo trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And we drove that for a few years, and then we got a bigger cargo trailer because we realized that we needed double axle because we were pulling too much weight. And so now we have like a 7x14 cargo trailer behind our 15-passenger bus, and we stay in homes. We stay in hotels a lot. We eat a lot of fast food. We eat way more fast food than I would like.
Right.
We try to figure out ways to make food cost effective and healthy on the road, neither of which works very well. But what's funny is people meet us at conferences, and one of the things they always say to us is it must be so much fun traveling together as a family and having your family on the road. Now, I don't want to speak for you. So I'll just let you respond to that, and then maybe I'll chime in with my perspective. But what would you say? What do you say when people say that to you? That just must be so much fun to travel as a family across the country.
Well, it can be. I mean, just imagine packing up your vehicle every week, every weekend, and going on a vacation, a family vacation. You know how that can be kind of hard to do all the packing. Of course, my wife would take care of all that for the kids and everything. I just pack my own stuff, which I can do in about 5 minutes, throw it in a bag and go. But just think of doing that every weekend, packing for a vacation and taking 5 kids along with you. Just think, in your case, 10 kids, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, although our oldest is no longer traveling with us, so
right.
we have 9 that would still go on the road with us. And then my sister, Sony, travels with us as well.
Okay.
She lives with our family, and she handles all my bookings because I'm not any good at that. I just am not.
I wish I didn't have to do it.
I know, man. That's brutal. I'm always impressed with the booking, to negotiate that. But.
The booking and the actual driving is what I wish I didn't have to do. If I didn't have to do those things, it'd be piece of cake, man.
I don't mind the driving so much, but partly probably because I'm a control freak.
Well, I am too, and I would rather drive than ride. I'm just that way. But
especially when it's like my 16-year-olds behind the wheel.
Yeah, the older I get,
safer with me doing it.
The older I get, those long drives, coming back from Florida, 13, 14 hours back home to Tennessee. It's like, man, by the time I get home, I am just wore out.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the older you get, it definitely takes a toll on you. I guess my perspective with that family thing, and I'm changing in this, but the difference between going on a family vacation every weekend and what I do is that we don't vacation, we work.
Right.
And so especially at the venues with what I do, yours is a little different because you found a way to incorporate your children into the music, which is wonderful. And I want to talk about that too. But with what I do, I'm up front, and sometimes my wife and I are up front. But that means we've got 9 children running around a convention center somewhere. We have no idea where they are, what they're doing. We hope the older ones are somehow watching the younger ones. And we figure they're probably getting into trouble and will probably be kicked out of the convention at some point. But I'm not interacting with my children that much, especially at the large conventions, even if they're there. And so it's an interesting thing for us, the packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, dragging out all the gear, setting everything up. You have the instruments and all that. For us, we have all these book tables and product that we take. And, so I have had to learn myself how to take time and stop and smell the roses on the road. And for a lot of years, I didn't do that. I just went from event to event to event. And the way we booked it, I mean, man, I would just book seminars every night if I could.
Yeah.
And part of that's financial, right? You have to maximize your potential, because what you guys do is very similar to what we do. When we do seminars, they're always free. We don't charge the church for our events. We don't charge people to attend.
That's right.
We sell product and we put out, and I'm at the point now, where I don't even, it's just me, totally just me. I don't have a problem with anybody else doing it a different way. I don't even like passing a plate. So I just put a box on the table in the back, which means we get less, in terms of donations.
True. Yeah.
But I just, we just do free events, and you guys do that with your concerts. They're always free will offering, and people can just, give if it blesses them. But it's hard to make a living that way. It really is. You are living by faith when you do that. You're trusting that God's going to provide for you. And, there are churches, you may go do a whole concert and you make $150 that night. Yeah. I mean, does that even pay your gas and your hotels? It doesn't. And your food. No. I mean, so you have to kind of, maximize as many events in as you possibly can. And what I find is when I just think, and I'm also a workaholic by nature and nurture, I think.
Yeah.
I just, I'm geared towards that. I love working. But I'm actually trying to reform in that department, because I see how much my kids need to be able to have fun with me.
Right.
My wife, she's naturally geared towards, taking a map and looking at everything that's going to be on the way and stopping and saying, hey, this is nearby, that's nearby. So how do you guys do that? Do you find ways to incorporate, road schooling and educational opportunities and fun and all that in your travels? Or are you like me and it's kind of like work?
I am that way a lot. And when we first started traveling, first 5 years or so, we purposely tried to see, especially for history, when we'd go to Virginia, of course, Virginia is full of, history, presidents' homes, and, Civil War, Revolutionary War, all kinds of things. We purposely tried to make time to go visit those places and let the kids see those places that they would read about in the books, which a lot of kids never do. All they see is what they read in pictures. They never go to actual spots. So we tried to do that, and especially when the kids were real little. But it seems like the older they've gotten and the older I get, the less I want to, mess around. I'm like you. When I leave the house, I want to get there as soon as I can. I don't want to stop anywhere and look at everything. I want to get to my destination and get in the hotel room or whatever and rest and then get ready for the service either that night or the next morning. And so that's kind of the way I am now. But we've been to a bunch of presidents' homes. We've been to, a lot of the national monuments across the country. Just anytime we're around those areas, still, we still try to make time to do that, because you got to make memories along the way. And those are the kind of things that'll stick in your kids' minds the rest of their life. My dad took me to that when I was 10 years old. That's the kind of stuff that they're going to carry on to their children, when they have children one of these days.
So let me ask you this question. How did you get your children to work with you in the music side of this? Because there are some children who are naturally bent toward music, and there are some who are not. There are some children who can do music, but it's not necessarily their love. It's not necessarily the
Right.
thing that they want to do. But so what's the balance for you as a parent in terms of your approach to teaching your children music, and that how do you balance them, wanting to encourage them in music without driving them in music if they just aren't into it?
Well, they all have a God-given talent that the Lord's given them, a musical talent. And so that wasn't, we didn't have to teach them.
You didn't have reluctance?
No, not when they were little kids at first. They wanted to get on stage, and they wanted to sing, and they wanted to play their instruments. And especially, when a little grandma comes up, oh, Sonny, or little girl, I really enjoyed your music tonight. I really enjoyed your singing. You're so pretty. You sing so good. They love, everybody loves praise, stuff like that.
Yeah.
My son, my oldest son, when he was about 7 or 8 years old, I wanted him to come up, and he was learning to play the guitar, and I wanted him to come up and play his guitar and sing. And he was like, I don't want to. Well, my other 2 daughters would get up and do a couple of those songs, and he would just sit there, he wouldn't come up on stage. And so I told him, I said, okay, I'll give you $20 if you'll come up and sing a song. And so he did. I gave him the $20. We went to another place to sing, and he said, "You gonna give me another $20 if I get up and sing?" I said, "No, that was a one-time thing." But
yeah, Dad will go broke doing that every night.
Exactly. That's all we got in the offer was $20. I ain't gonna give it to you. Right. But anyway, he, like I said, when the people started coming up to him and saying, "I really enjoyed your singing, young man. You need to sing more." He liked that. He liked that praise. So eventually, he started getting up and doing it more. And eventually the 3 kids began to sing together as a trio, and he'd play guitar, and my 17-year-old would play a mandolin, and the other one play the fiddle, and they would do instrumentals, and they would sing, and it just really sound good and played good together. So it took a little time to get him really involved, but the more time has gone on, it's more it's not the passion that I've always had as a kid and what I still have today. It's not the same passion in there, even though they still want to do music. It's not, they still, kids, when they get in their teen years, they're trying to figure out who they are.
That's right.
What they're supposed to do, when they get older, when they get out of the house. They've got to go through all those, every little shiny thing is attracted to them.
That's right.
And they got to figure out what they want to do, and what I want to do, what I want them to do may not be the same thing what they want to do.
I hear you.
Which it kind of, it hurts me a little bit, because I want them to have that same passion that I had when I was their age.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them a lot of times, because sometimes we'll get ready to go on a trip, and they'll say, "Do we have to go this weekend? Can't we stay home? We want to stay home and be at church with our friends." And I understand that. I get that. And I'm like, "No, I need you. I need you." And I'm not going to be able to keep them forever. They're going to go get married and start having their own families, and they're not going to just stay with Dad all the time. I have to face that reality that that's going to happen someday. But I do believe that God did put that music in them. And I believe that even though they're not traveling with me, I believe they will be involved in some kind of music ministry, or some kind of ministry, whether it's a worship leader in a church, or even traveling with another group or something, or marrying somebody that's an evangelist or something like that. I believe they will definitely stay in the ministry somewhere.
What advice would you give to parents who have a child that they feel has some aptitude, some gifting toward music? Just what's the balance between encouraging them to do their best, but not pushing them to the point that they hate it, or especially for those maybe who feel like you did as a young person, just the desire, like, I would just love to do this as a career. People often write to me and they say, "Man, how do I become an author?" And I usually say, do you have any other skills, or is there anything else that you can do? Because if so, just do that other thing. You know, if you know how to pick up cans on the side of the road, you're going to make more money than you're going to make as an author. So I'm just going to strongly encourage you, just don't go down that road. But, you know, but then I usually say, but, you know, if you just can't, this is bad grammar, but if you just can't not do it.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to do this, then do it. And I think there are some people that God puts that into. But then there are other people, like you said, that, you know, they're not going to make a full-time living out of it. They just enjoy it. And, you know, maybe it's with family and friends, or singing in a nursing home, or, you know, doing special music on Sundays or Wednesday nights or whatever. But what advice would you give for the parent who has this child who has an interest in music? What are some things they can do to help cultivate and nourish that, without pushing their kid too hard to where it becomes a drudgery?
Well, you said it. I mean, if you push them too hard, and it's got to be something that's a passion in them. It's got to be something that they're desiring to do. Because if it's something that you want them to do, or you did it yourself, and you're like me, and of course we all want our kids to be better than us. We want them to achieve things that we never got to achieve, and so we want them to be us, actually, and just kind of at a higher degree. And so, but it has to be something that they feel called to do, or they have a passion for. If you push them too hard, they're gonna go the other way. That's just human nature, especially in kids. They'll rebel a lot of times. But if they do have the talent, encouragement and praise is the best thing. And pray for them, and tell them to pray and ask God what He wants them to do with the talent that He gave them. You know, there's so many people, especially in Nashville, Tennessee, that they're on the street corners, and they got their little guitar, and they're sitting there singing and playing guitar down on Music Row, and they're great musicians, great singers, but they never get discovered. They'll live in their cars. They'll sell everything they've got and live in their car and try to get discovered. And maybe 1 out of 1,000 that come down there, somebody will hear them and say, "Hey, this guy sounds pretty good. You ought to check him out." And it might work for them. It may not. But like you said, have a backup plan just in case. Learn something else just in case. You know, I had to do that. I mean, I would just play music and sing the rest of my life. That's what I plan to do. But our plans aren't always God's plans. You know, He always has plans for us that a lot of times we don't even know about.
It's true.
And
seasons too.
Seasons. And so I went through that season where I had to give it all up. Something that I'd lived for and worked for all my life. I had to give it up. And especially if I wanted to survive, you know, to make a living, which a lot of people think that when I was with MidSouth that we were just rolling in the dough because, you know, we had all this success. We had a bus. We were singing with these big groups, you know, we had records, we had songs on CMT. We must be making a killing, but that wasn't the case.
That's
Most
right.
of our money was going to somebody else.
That's
right.
right.
We were paying other people and insurance
people don't know that.
payments.
The people do not realize how
we had
you can make, how well known you can be, and how little money you can be making proportionally.
Exactly. And so by the time we paid everybody else, we had hardly anything left to pay ourselves. So a lot of times, and then when a bus engine would go out, man, I get paid for 2 or 3 weeks, you know, you just never know. But I went through that season when we finally gave it up, that I knew that you got to get a regular job, you know. But the Lord blessed me with 2 back to back that I was making more money with them than I ever did singing. And but now as we travel as a family, which makes it a whole lot easier, you talk about not charging and doing love offerings, and it is a leap of faith to do something like that, especially when you got a big family, especially your size family. And it's a leap of faith, but you know what? It makes it easier to do when it's just a family. Now, when you've got 2 or 3, 4 guys, 5 guys traveling together, they've all got families.
Yeah. And
you have to pay every one of them out of what you get. It makes it hard. It makes it hard to do.
Yeah, that's right. You take up an offering of $500 that night, split it 5 ways.
100 bucks a piece. And then you got to take the expenses and everything out of that
You got to
first,
pay gas on a bus, man.
Exactly. So it doesn't leave you much, but as a family, it all goes in your family, goes to your family. So that makes it a whole lot easier to do.
So for people that are listening who want to consider having you sing and minister at their church, what are some ways that they can get in touch with you?
Well, we have a website, bobbybowen.com, BOBBYBOWEN.com. All of our contact information is on there. We have videos, we have songs that you can listen to and download and purchase CDs and things like that. We have a contact page on there. You can contact me. Our phone number's on there. Also, we have several Facebook pages. Bobby Bowen Family Band is our business page. We have a music page, Bobby Bowen Family Music. It's a group page. And then we all have individual personal Facebook pages. Bobby Bowen, my wife Becky Bowen is on there, and my kids are on there as well. We have a YouTube channel that we have a lot of videos up on. We're just all over the place. If you Google my name, it's gonna bring me up.
That's right. Yeah, and tell us about your new podcast.
Well, I started something during this shutdown thing, and it wasn't really planned that way. It was just something that I thought. I saw, I don't know if anybody's out there familiar with Mark Lowry, that he's a Christian comedian. He travels, used to be on the Gaither Vocal Band, and he's been around for many, many years. Funny guy, real funny guy. It was either on YouTube or Facebook. I was looking not too long ago, and he started a little talk show thing, and it was a video talk show that was on YouTube and Facebook, and he had people in gospel music and stuff that he wasn't really interviewing, but they were just talking and, funny stuff and just having fun. And I thought, I ought to try something like that and get people in the music business, and just because a lot of people, when they see you on stage, you may have a testimony, you may talk about, some of the things you've done in the past, but they really don't go real deep into where you came from and what your influences were and how you got started in music business and just stuff like that. So people were interested in knowing people's stories. So I thought, well, I want to try something like that and just see how it goes. So, I was just doing them bam, 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 one every day seemed like, and I was getting people interested in letting me interview them, which I'm not really an interview person. I used to be on the other side of the mic, but so far the people that I've gotten, they had no problem talking. I don't hardly have to ask any questions, but it's it's interesting stuff, even stuff that I never knew about from these artists that I've known for years, but I really didn't know their background, where they came from, what they've been through. Some of the funny road stories, which we've all got. We could write books about them. It's just it's been a fun thing. It's very interesting. It's called The Bobby Bowen Show, and it's on Facebook. If y'all want to check that out. I just did an interview a couple of days ago with Joel Hemphill, used to be with the Hemphills. He's written so many songs, and it was just an interesting thing to hear how he got started and where he came from and where he is today. He lost his wife a few years ago, Labriska, of cancer. His kids are doing well. His two sons have had a bus business since 1990, and it's done really well. They're leasing buses out just to everybody in rock music and country music. And their daughter Candy has a homeless ministry in Nashville. It's called The Bridge. They go down every week, I think on Thursdays. They deliver food. They set up a sound system. They have singing, preaching for the homeless people that live under the bridge, Jefferson Street Bridge in Nashville. And there's usually hundreds of them down there. And they minister to those people, and they have won a lot of those people to the Lord. So it's a really cool interview. If you want to check that out, it's The Bobby Bowen Show on Facebook.
There's a lot of merchandise they can get on your website. They can get downloads of audios from MidSouth, from Bobby Bowen Family Band. There's CDs for those who want a physical product.
There's T-shirts.
Great swag like this, the T-shirts, and just a lot of great resources there. Make sure you get on Bobby's mailing list too, because that's important for you to know when he's in your area. because he travels so much
Right.
as I do, and he oftentimes will probably be in your area, and you can visit. And just one thing I'll say is, from a church standpoint, and we probably have pastors that are listening to the podcast as well, a concert is a great opportunity to refresh your congregation, to just give everybody a chance to kind of unwind, relax. It gives your staff some time. It gives the pastor some time to just sit back yourself and just kind of be rejuvenated. And so to be able to bring them in is a great ministry to your church, but it's also a great evangelistic outreach, because there are people who will come and hear a concert, especially if they like country music. They'll come to a concert and they wouldn't come to a sermon, but
Right.
they're going to come and they're going to, meet Bobby and his family, meet your church family. They're going to meet people who love Jesus and that are kind. And, I think sometimes people have a misconception about what church people are like. They're all mean or surly or whatever. And most church people aren't like that. I've met a few that are.
Oh yeah, there's some exceptions out there.
There's some out there, but for the most part, God's people, they're imperfect, but there's some wonderful, just sweet, godly people out there. And this gives church an opportunity to have an outreach to the community as well. And the great thing, again, about having Bobby and his family come and minister at your church is that you don't have to. Well, I'll just use an illustration. I was part of a really small church for about 8 years, and our pastor told me that a well-known Christian musician contacted him and said that he was going to be in our area, and he just felt led that he should contact the pastor and offer to lead worship and preach on Sunday morning. And the pastor was flattered by that, because we have a small congregation. And so he wrote back and said, well, I do think I should give you full disclosure. We have a really small church family here.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would love that. I mean, we would be blessed by that. And the guy wrote back and said, well, that'd be great. I'm going to need $5,000 in advance. And he wrote back and said, well, I think you're going to feel led somewhere else, because we don't have that budget. And so
exactly,
this is a great opportunity for you to get a quality music concert that's not going to cost you $5,000.
I have never done anything like that before. That's for sure. I doubt he got the 5,000 anywhere else. Probably
not in our area, not in Southwest Michigan. I'm sure there's some places that might fork that over somewhere, but it's not going to be rural Southwest Michigan. That's
not places I've contacted.
No. Yeah, Bobby's like, I need to find out who his list is of churches that actually will do that. Call them.
Yeah, man. If I could get one church to do that a month, I could just take out the rest of the month.
That's right. Well, brother, it's a blessing, always a blessing to connect with you and your wonderful family. We appreciate you. And Bobby blessed our family recently during this COVID-19 crisis. He and his family had a benefit concert online, a live Facebook concert, and it was a fundraiser that they used to benefit our ministry, Family Renewal. And they were able to raise like $500 in one night to help our family, because some of this is a loss of revenue for our family being off the road. Right. But also we have a daughter who has Lyme disease, and we have a lot of medical expense and things there as well. And so Bobby and his family just out of the graciousness of their heart decided, in a time where they really have a need, to bless our family. And so if you think about it, their family right now, when you hear this, hopefully COVID-19 will be over by the time you hear this, but they'll still be recovering from that, because they're off the road, and this is what they do full time. This is how they support their family. So you can donate to their ministry as well. And if you go to their website, there's information how you can support their ministry on a monthly basis, on an ongoing basis. And we would encourage you to do that. They're just great, wonderful people. And encourage you to check out what they do. So, Bobby, thank you. Say hi to your family, and maybe we'll have you back on in the future.
Sounds good, Israel. I appreciate you having me on, and your family's not so bad yourself. You got a great family too. Appreciate what you're doing. Going to these homeschool conventions and speaking and sharing your heart and your experiences with your family, about your family to other homeschool families is a blessing for sure. And my wife has been reading one of your books here lately, and about parenting, homeschool family. And
so she didn't get the one about how to fix your husband in 10 days? She didn't get that one?
No, she's working on that one after this one.
I haven't
get that one later.
I'm afraid my wife would probably implement it. No.
let me tell you something real quick before I get off. It's okay.
Yeah.
You're talking about us doing the fundraiser for your family. We were, when this whole shutdown happened and we knew all of our dates were getting canceled, the first thing you naturally do as a human, you start kind of like, well, what are we going to do? This is how we make our living. I don't have people say, do you have a job when you get home? I said, yep. I'm on the computer trying to book dates, manage the family, and all the other husbandly and fatherly things I have to do when I'm home. That's a job, and then I have to go out and do my job when I go out. And so when that all that stuff started canceling and shutting down, I was like, So I said, well, I guess we're going to try to do a Facebook live concert, and we'll ask people to make donations and buy CDs and things like that. And that same day, I got an email from you, and you were talking about how the shutdown, most of your income comes from these homeschool conventions, and it was like a big chunk of your income for the year was gone. And so I just felt like the Lord was dealing with me about that. And I told my wife, I said, well, whatever we get in tonight, I just feel like the Lord wants us to share it with Israel's family. And she agreed. She didn't say, no, we need to keep it for ourselves. She didn't do that. She agreed. And I said, boy, Lord, I hope it's more than $50, because I'd feel kind of dumb sending them $25, but it wasn't. I mean, it was over, around $1,000 that people donated to us. And I told them up front what we were doing with the money. And I feel like the Lord, because of our obedience and because we blessed your family, after that, money started coming in. People started sending checks. People started buying stuff on our website. I've been going to the post office every day, mailing out T-shirts and CDs, and people have been just donating. We started, there was a church in Ohio that asked us to do a Facebook concert on their church Facebook page. And they sent us some money to do it. And it was for a Sunday night. And that gave me an idea. And I thought, well, why can't we do that on other church Facebook pages? And, ask them to make $100 donation or whatever. We'll offer our CDs for sale while we're doing. So we've done probably 20 of those since this thing's happened. And plus we've done on our own Facebook pages.
Wow.
And the Lord has just blessed us.
Praise God.
I mean, I've been busier than I've ever been.
Praise God.
He's blessed us financially. And I actually believe it's because we were obedient to what he told us to do with your family.
Wow.
And so that may encourage somebody out there. Maybe you're thinking, because, I've contacted a lot of churches to try to do these Facebook things and even try to book a date further down the road in their church in person. And I've heard a lot of pastors say that their income has gone way down since this thing's happened because they're not actually going to the building, are not paying their tithe. They're not giving in the offerings. They're not paying online. They're not sending a check in. One guy in Texas told me he didn't know what he was going to do. He was going to have to close the doors. He was going to have to find him a job because there was no income coming in from the people. And that's sad. People, I'm not going to pay, I'm sure there's lots of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are wondering, how in the world am I going to make it? How am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to pay the electricity? How am I going to buy groceries? As long as you stay obedient. And I'm not preaching the name it, claim it thing. A lot of preachers do. But I am saying that if you obey the Lord and pay your tithe and give in offerings and you bless another ministry, he will open up the windows of heaven and he'll bless you more than you imagine. And that's exactly what's happened to us.
Praise God.
So I encourage people out there, don't give to my ministry, give to his ministry, Israel Wayne's, because he's got a whole lot more kids than I do. And he can't actually go on Facebook and sing. He could try. I don't know how well it would be received. But he can't actually do what I've been doing and getting donations that way and selling stuff. He can sell stuff, but he needs a blessing. Like you said, he's got a daughter that's been in and out of the hospital. They need some help. So don't send any money to us. Send it to them, okay?
Well, go ahead and send Bobby some too. But
you can buy a CD, but if you're going to send a donation, send it to Israel's family.
We appreciate you. Good word there, brother. I appreciate that, because I think there's a need sometimes for us to realize that God can do more than what we can do.
Exactly.
When we think of our capacity, we get discouraged and we get afraid.
Yeah.
But God's not limited by our capacity, and so I think you guys live that walk of faith, and just even having this conversation hopefully has inspired some other families to live that walk of faith as well. And so appreciate you guys, and till we meet again at a real event somewhere.
Can't wait.
we'll just continue to keep in touch with you via Facebook.
Sounds great.
Bless
Thanks,
you.
Israel. Appreciate you very much.
All right.